is a very important subject matter. And the first thing I want to do is to help us to contextualize. All of us are leaders. We're very particular about selecting the people that will be in the room. All of us are positional leaders. You're occupying a position either in your department, in your faculty, or in the SUG. And you got there for many reasons. But I want to believe that you got there for the best of reasons. Some people have, in quote, entitled reasons for getting into positions, because they have seen the way people cash out. And that's why they aspire to be leaders, especially in the tertiary institution space. Because of the opportunities of networking, because of the opportunities of new relationships, you want that opportunity to be able to have an opportunity to meet with people who are in government offices, because you can leverage on your position to get certain kinds of favors. Some people have those reasons. Those are entitled reasons. It's just coming from a place of entitlement. Some other people really have the core of leadership at the back of their mind, because they have recognized some of the problems that exist, some of the challenges that Mr. Ishaya was pointing out to us. Some people go into positions or aspire into leadership positions for the right reasons. And that's because they want to inspire change. They want to contribute their own quota to national transformation. And most times when we talk about national transformation, the first thing that comes to our mind is that we do not have a place within the country. We most times interpret nations to nation states. We interpret nations based on the context of countries. So by the time you hear nation building, the first thing that's coming to your mind is, for my small corner in Department of Plant Science, what can I do to contribute to the problems of 200 million people? I don't have such influence. I don't have such reach. Do you understand? My contribution will rather be inconsequential. But that's one of the mindsets that defeats us in our contribution towards nation building. First and foremost, when we're able to clearly understand what a nation is, then we will appreciate the strategic roles and positions that we are occupying right now. Because it is from places like this that we graduate into having larger impact, in the context of states, local governments, in the context of countries and even continents. There are some people who their transformational endeavors and contributions are affecting the entire world. Talk about the Melinda Gates, or the Bill and Melinda Gates. Talk about the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, for instance. Talk about the Mandela Washington Fellowship, for instance. There are some people whose context of nation building transcends the limits of the geography of nation states and has reached into continental, boundaries. But what I'm trying to say is that your little space, or what you think is little, can constitute a nation, can constitute your nation, can constitute your impact constituency. And that constituency is very critical to the larger context of the country. Our interest, our drive, our priority is to see Nigeria transformed, like our first speaker clearly stated. But it must begin from somewhere. Everybody has a role to play, like he rightly said. So we have to reorient ourselves about what a nation is. As long as there is a group of people that are defined, that can be defined by a common purpose, that can be defined by a common characteristics, that can be defined by a common ideology, that are living within a defined geographical space, you have a nation whose aspiration, I'm talking about the people now, who have a common aspiration and take responsibility for the accomplishment of that particular aspiration. Then you already have a nation. And in our context in Nigeria, we have various nations. We can constitute several nations out of this country, Nigeria, within which the task of nation building can be carried out. And when we begin to see it like that, then you will see that you are a nation builder. You can be a nation builder. And your contribution no matter how minimal you think it is in your own eyes, is contributing something sufficient to drive the entire whole. When everybody takes it as a responsibility to do their bit in their own space, because it's going to be an aggregate of efforts. No, it's going to be an aggregate of efforts. It's going to be an aggregate of one person taking responsibility in his own space, saying that I am responsible and I can do something about where I am. When all of us begin to have that mindset, then all of our efforts will begin to count for much. That's the first thing that we need to understand. So the department where you are leading, the faculty where you are leading, the university where you are leading, as an SUG president, as a departmental president, as a faculty chief of staff, whatever it is, portfolio or no portfolio, there's a responsibility that is attached. And we must understand that every nation is constituent of three things. In every nation there are people, in every nation there are institutions, and in every nation there is territory. There are people, there are institutions, and there are territories. Are there people in your department? Yes. Is your department an institution? It is. Because it is a social structure that is responsible for establishing certain norms, governed by practices. It has an interconnection of systems that govern the way you behave. So there are lecture timetables that you shouldn't be late for. There are practicals, there are exams, and all of those things. That makes it an institution. Every nation has people, has institutions, and has territory. And the intersection of these three constituents is what helps us to define the place that we are called to transform as nation builders. For you right now, I would want to stay with your constituency, your position, and allow me to limit myself in a way to the position that you have. Then I will broaden the perspective later. The position that you have right now is a critical platform that should not be taken for granted. When we hear of the stories, I'm sure he didn't share any of his stories. I've heard a little and I can't even utter them. But when you hear some of the stories of the people who were in our positions in the 80s or in the 90s, and the kinds of change and reforms they were able to influence by virtue of the positions that they occupied, we will begin to understand the critical role that we have. My father was into student unionism. He was the SUG president of SPS Kefi. I don't know where SPS Kefi is right now, but that was in the 70s or something. And as at that point, there were in fact, there are some of his pictures at home with Solomon Lar. So I think it was the 80s. Solomon Lar was the governor of Plateau State then. There are some of his pictures with Solomon Lar and all of that, you know. And speaking with him, you will find out that what got him there, I mean, to the point of meeting with the governor and all of that, was because they were advocating for the rights of students, for the welfare of students. They had seen certain things that were detrimental to the holistic well-being of students, and they needed to fight for. So they used their position as a pedestal to release their voice to contribute something meaningful. And there are lots of, I was in a conference, a boot camp recently, and we had a lot of people come to speak to us. The likes of the former governor of Ekiti State, you know, Governor Fayemi, you know, and several former ministers, past ambassadors, and all of that. And one thing I noticed about most of them is that they were active unionists in their days. And they told us some of their stories, and I was like, wow, there are people who sacrificed, who paid certain prices. Some of them were jailed. You never hear these things in the news. They were jailed, some for months, because of activism. And where did the activism spring from? The springboard was the position they occupied in their university days. So my point right now, I'm not spurring you to activism, is very important. It's a pathway to national transformation. I'm talking about activism is a pathway to national transformation. I'm not trying to say that you should go on the street right now. That's what I'm trying to say. You get what I'm trying to say? Activism in the politics. And what I'm trying to say is that your position is very critical. And you should start from where you are. Where you are is the exchange platform that you have. There's no guarantee you will have this kind of platform tomorrow. But there can be a guarantee if you maximize the platform that you have now. It might not necessarily be in a political space, as most of us aspire. Because there's always that thing that, okay, once I'm done with student unionism, the next thing is that I'm going to calculate my way into politics. That's most time our framework of thinking. Yes, it might happen for a lot of us. It might not happen for some of us. Does it mean that our pursuit or our positioning for national transformation should cease? No. But what will ensure that it doesn't cease after a position is the mindset and the understanding we have right now, whilst we are occupying a place of relevance. So look at the people. Do I have slides? Okay, I do. Look at the people. Look at the institution. Look at the territory. Transformation and nation building happens along these lines. It happens along these lines and the intersection of these lines. The people, the institution, and the territory. The people, of course, we don't need to flood, we are all people. But people is broad. You can define various sets of people. You don't need to, okay. You can define various sets of people. We have various agitations of different sets of people or subsets of people. You have the male sentiment, you have the female sentiment, you have the young sentiments, you have the older sentiments. In our own context, we are all young, so we can see the demography is the same. But in your departments, you have people that are from different ethnicities. And some of them are agitating for certain things that are kin to their own ethnicity. You have two different genders, male, female, and maybe the female are agitating that they are not occupying positions. We need to have more positions in the department or in the faculty for female to occupy. So you have those people sentiments, various sentiments or various sets that are very important in helping you understand as a leader how you should go about your nation building endeavor. Because all of these subsets, I'm using mathematical terms, all of these subsets have their unique expectations. Most of them have their unique needs. In Nigeria right now, there are clamors for various things. The Igbos say we're the Republic of Biafra. The Yoruba people are calling for another nation to be formed, Oduduwa, because of the sentiment. It's an ethnic sentiment. So you have those sentiments that exist within the people space. And it's very important to understand it. But the key word is that if a nation will be built, all human sentiments must be aligned into a common purpose. So beyond all of the differences that we have to be united along the line of a vision. So as leaders, one of your key responsibilities is to define what the vision is. Where are we going to? The people need a rallying point. Sometimes the rallying point is a man. It's first a man, it's an icon. And then the people buy into that person and then they buy into the vision. And sometimes we have seen so many reformations that have happened in the world, how people are even ready to lay down their lives because they believe in an icon and they believe in a vision. What do you represent? What does your leadership represent? It's very critical. Some of us fail to ask ourselves that question before we get into the place of relevance. So we are almost clueless for a large part of our leadership. Mind you, your tenure is bounded by time. It's not monarchical. At most, 1 year. Right? Even the presidential is bounded by time. At most. How many years?
8 years.
After 8 years, you're gone. So positions can be fleeting. But positions are critical. But beyond position is vision. Because even a man without a position who has a vision can galvanize people around the vision and make substantial progress. Because I don't know the position in politics that someone like Martin Luther King Jr. had. I don't know the position that he had in politics that gave him the impetus to start what he started. Or I don't know the position that someone like Rosa Parks had. So you have to position yourself as an icon with a vision that people can rally around. Now, most of the times our fear is that after 1 year, so what next? And that's one of the critical problems we're having in the country. That after I do my 4 years, after I do my 8 years, the next person comes and doesn't continue with the projects I started, doesn't continue with anything, and all of that. But most times we are limited because we do not understand these three constituents I talked about: people, institutions, and territory, and how our impact must be able to touch all the lines of these three. What do people need? What is the end game of national transformation for people? Is that the ideological frameworks that govern human behavior should stem from the right sources. Righteousness should be at the bedrock of what we believe and what we accept to govern us. Our constructs, our understandings have been affected by our environments, whether good or bad. But it's the responsibility of nation builders to create an ideological environment that enables people to thrive, that enables people to see themselves for who they truly are by design and not by default. But it means that the work will start with you first. You need to be able to dissociate with yourself with destructive environments that have shaped you over time, by exposing yourself to the right kind of environment that will feed your soul and feed your spirit with the relevant knowledge you need to make that shift. These are some of the kinds of environments that we as leaders need right now. Our appetite for right knowledge has to increase. We cannot just have the appetite for what is socially trending. We have to delve into what is possible, what is wrong, what can we do about it? Who are the people that are doing what we should be doing, whether present or past, that we can connect to, plug into, and get the right source of inspiration and information that we need to drive the necessary change that we need to change. These are the kind of conversations that enable you as a leader to change your ideological construct, and that way you're able to bring your people into your frame. You can't lead people beyond the level you have gone to. The moment your people are above you, they will leave you. That's it. So you as a leader, you need to maintain your A game in growing in relevant knowledge. That's the first thing about people. So how do you change ideologies? How do you influence and transform ideologies? It's by talking, it's by teaching, it's by training, it's by exposure. It's by bringing in new realities into your space, so that people experience something new that is possible and they begin to yearn for it. A hunger is stirred up on the inside, on the possibilities that exist outside what they are used to. If we do not import possibilities into our space, then our people will remain at the same level of thinking that they have always been. But we as leaders must make that charge first to bring ourselves into the zone of possibility, beyond what our immediate environment has created. Leaders, I want to urge you today to think beyond now. Think beyond now. The work starts now. There's so much work to be done. And we need to rise up as compatriots to pay the price. About institutions, systems, social structures, with norms, with ethics, with rules. that govern the way people think and govern the way people behave. What can we do about our institutions? In your little space, start from your office. What is wrong in the way things are done in your office? If you can't start from there, you won't go far. Yes, as a department, what is wrong about the way election is done in our department? What is wrong about the way leaders are elected? Because I know it's election. Leaders are elected into offices. What is wrong about it? How can we change it? When you begin to talk about institutions, you begin to talk about reforms, you begin to talk about policies. Right? That's where you inform things at the level of policies. Because what you're doing is that you are making a case and pushing the charge for systemic overhauls. But you see, one of the challenges we have when we begin to think about institutions is that we think institutions are infallible, or institutions are, because they have been long established, we can't do anything about it. Institutions are formed by people, managed by people for people, but they outlive the people that formed them and outlive the people that manage them. So you come into an institution that has been for the past 40 years, you were not born then, and you think that, what am I to stand, or who am I to stand against something that has been established over time? That there is a defeatist mindset. Anything that is founded can be unfounded. But we must be ready to carry out the task of systemic diagnosis. It's like going to the doctor and you're not well. Before the doctor prescribes a medication, he carries out diagnosis. You present symptoms, yes. But you must be willing to acknowledge the symptoms. Thank you. You must be willing to acknowledge the symptoms. I'm feeling some headache, some fever, I woke up and I'm feeling dizzy, and all of that. If you don't acknowledge the symptoms, you won't go to the doctor. When you come into institutions and you see the symptoms, it's very important to carry out diagnosis, because the symptoms are not necessarily the root cause. Most times we spend energy and resources dealing with the symptoms and not the root causes. Diagnosis would help us to get to the main issue, or the main issues that exist. And it is from there we'll begin to ask the right questions that will help us come out with proper prognosis and also treatment plans. It's the same thing about nation building. You come in, take time. I heard of somebody who, I'll use his example because I think I find it very relevant. In fact, two people. One of them is, there's a book in my bag that I'm reading right now, The Arc of Possibility. It was written by the former ES of Neiti, Nigerian Extractive Industry, Waziriado. And he talked about when he came into that position, for like 6 months, it looked as if he was doing nothing. And everybody was wondering, okay, so what's this guy up to? He said he spent those 6 months understanding what the real problems of Neiti was. So that by the time they begin to move, they are dealing with things at the root, so they can get changes at the fruit. And it looked as if nothing was happening for 6 months until they got to the core of the matter. What did that involve? It involved researches. It involved digging into files of many years, studying it night and day, understanding where are we coming from, defining what our current reality is. If you can't define reality, we can't make progress. And we can only define reality when we dig deep. So what are the root causes of the symptoms that are being presented in our institution? That's what we need to target. Because it is from there we'll now begin to trash things. And you see, the truth about it is, every nation building effort is both work and war. There's a deployment of weapons and tools. It's a tear down affair, it's a build up affair, and it is a repair affair. Leaders must sustain the courage to tear down certain things. Tear down ideological constructs. Tear down systems that are not operating. Of course, it doesn't come without its challenges. But that's one of the core. One of the core is to take the heat while the work is being done. And of course, create systems that will enable you to shock, have bulletproof. You have to have bulletproof as you operate the work. But leaders must hold the weapons in one hand and the tools in the other hand. Because with the weapons we tear down, with the tools we build. Every nation building affair is a combination of tearing down, repairing, and building up. Because there are certain things that, because their founding ideologies were flawed, we cannot build a structure on it. If the foundation is faulty, what can the righteous do? Those foundations have to be torn down. Entirely new foundations need to be laid. You can't build a sustainable structure on faulty foundations. That's where tearing down comes in. Some other things need to be repaired because their foundations were not necessarily flawed, but their building processes were flawed. The materials that were used to build them had issues. These dimensions and specifications were not followed. So for some of those things, repairs need to be made. But some other things need to be built up from ground up. There are new concepts. There are new ideas that need to be framed for the nation to be built. And nation builders need to take the responsibility of conceptualizing newness. Because newness is one of the responsibilities of building nations. Building up from ground up. There's no frame of reference for this. Like our keynote speaker was saying earlier. There's no frame of reference for this. So I have to toil. I have to go through the rigors and the labors of setting a new foundation. Those three dimensions of work must guide us. We must have those mentalities as we are going into positions of office. I don't know whether some of you will soon hand over or you're just starting. But what I'm trying, the reason why I said that is that it doesn't end with your position. This is to give you context. Because wherever you are now, some of you are leaders in your religious organizations, you're leaders in other associations, you will be leaders tomorrow. Some of you will become House of Reps members, right? You will become representatives, you will become executive, you will become executive directors, and all manners of leadership cadres that you will rise to. This should form the foundation upon which we begin to build. Thirdly, we have territories. Every nation exists within a defined territory. Even the earth is a territory. So if you're talking about, for instance, all females in the world, all females on earth, there are no females in Mars. Even if there are females in Mars, it's still a defined territory. So territories are not necessarily, when we talk about territory in the context of nation building, we are not limited to just the geography of your country. Because the constituency might include people that are outside of the geography of your country. You get what I'm trying to say? So you have to define the territory. And what do territories need? What are the things that we have to look out for in territories? We look out for infrastructure, the facilities, the systems that enable people to live, to be their best. What is the state of the infrastructure? What's the state of the amenities? The health infrastructure, the educational infrastructure. I'm talking about infrastructure like this now. The roads and the agricultural infrastructure, like mechanized farming, as he was talking about. Is it up to date? Does it allow people to be their best? Does it allow people to live their best? Does it allow people to contribute their best? The end game for all of this is that the human spirit is maximized, that everybody has an enabling environment to be able to be and do what they've been designed to be and do. That's what nation builders are out for, to create an enabling environment where people thrive. So both the land and the institutions and their ideologies are enabling people to thrive, not just survive, but to be their best according to design. When we are able to factor these things into place and ensure that we are keen about optimizing these environments at every point in time, it means that there's always a call for evaluation and re-evaluation. We must evaluate the states of the people, this condition, the welfare of the people and the mindset of the people. Always evaluating the state of the institutions, the norms, the ethics, the systems. How does it impact the people? And of course, we talk about institutions. We are talking about family, education, media, art, religion. All of those things are institutions, beyond bricks and wood. When you talk about the territory, what's the state of the infrastructure? Is it up to date with global standard? Or at least, what can enable people to thrive and be and do the best that they were created to do? These are the questions that should always ring in our minds. These are the things that should give us sleepless nights. These are the things that should help us to craft visions that will enable us to move on the trajectory and also transfer that same vision. You see, a vision is beyond a statement. That's where we get it wrong. You think because you wrote down a statement. No, a vision is beyond a statement. A statement just captures the essence of your vision. But you can have a vision so strong enough that everybody after you keeps living that vision, even without using the same statement. Because it touches on people, it touches on an institution, it touches on territory. So you leave a legacy in the sands of time where everybody coming after you builds up on what you have done. That is how we should think. When we begin to think like that, when we find ourselves in more critical roles of influence, we'll be able to do better. We'll be able to impact better. We'll be able to bear the burdens better. But the call right now is for us to be ready to bear the burden. Guys, please stop seeing your position as a means to an end, as a means to get rich or to get political power. It's good if it is for the right reasons. It's very important. There's what we call passionate positioning. You have to position yourself passionately and strategically to get to where you're going to. Very important. It's not out of place, but go in there for the right reasons. Really have the heart of the nation at your mind. Because if we scale from tertiary institutions and we don't get the right mindset for leadership and nation building, we're not guaranteed at the House of Assembly level. We're not guaranteed at councillor level. We're not guaranteed at the House of Reps. We're not guaranteed at the national level. Because it is what we have here that we will export to those other places. So if we can salvage a few, let us salvage a few. Because like he rightly said, we don't need, yes, there has to be mobilization for many, because there must be a critical mass. But somebody must start the process at a particular constituency. Somebody must initiate it. Somebody must be ready to take the bullet. Somebody must be ready to deliver something to people that they can believe in. People want to live for something that is bigger than themselves. We've not just tried the human mind. We think everybody is selfish. Yes, we are all selfish. But that's because we have not encountered something that is bigger, something that is better, and something that can leave a national impact. When we truly encounter it, then we'll be able to lay bare our selfish ambitions and embrace something that has the impact for national change. And that's what we want you to embrace today. That from where you are, we can begin to see change. And going forward beyond this place, we can trust the caliber of people that will be churned out into the institutions for leadership tomorrow. This conference is just the beginning. There's an entire leadership development blueprint that has been put together by the team, and we're working towards partnership with several people. PSGA is graciously a partner, Raising the Bar is graciously a partner, and so many other partners that will come in, that will help us to, allow me to use the word, curate the right kind of leaders we want to be deployed into positions of authority tomorrow. In every institution, in family, in religion, in the government, in business, in media, in tech, in entertainment, in health, and in every other sector. That's what we want to achieve. And I'm so excited, trust me. In 2017, we had a conversation with a couple of leaders from tertiary institutions, the National ESCOs of National Association of Plateau State Students. We hosted them to a training like this for 2 years. In 2017, we had with that set of ESCO, and in 2018, we had with the next set of ESCO. And for some reasons, I think we felt a bit discouraged, and we put it aside. That's almost 7 years now. And by God's grace, we've been able to pick it. This year, we'll be in 5 tertiary institutions across Plateau State doing this. And it's not going to stop here. Our target is to hit all 22. We might have to converge some together, or we might have to go to every tertiary institution. But we believe in this nation. And we are laying down our lives for this nation. People are, and people will still do it. Join the train. Put the mindset of mediocrity and smallness aside. There's greater good when we do it together. There's greater good Your children will thank you that you sacrificed for the nation, that you laid down your life for the nation. You do not necessarily die, but the sacrifices that you invested. Because this is a sacrifice. Is that not so? Yeah, I travel. Personally, now let me tell you a little bit of my own personal sacrifice. I traveled to Abuja to come here. Is that not sacrifice? It's a little sacrifice, and all of the resources that have gone in here. So please, when you go back to your department and your faculty, sit down and think. What can we do? Define the reality? Put that slide up so that you can see. Define the reality of the people. Define the reality of the institution. Define the reality of the territory. What strategic plan can you have that would drive the much needed change in that direction? That's what we need. And we would love to get your feedback. We'll be in touch with you. We'll communicate with you. Call us to come and speak with your people. We will gladly do so. We will gladly do so. It's so much in which you listen to Tyoden and Tyoden who are doing amazing things, and either call us please. This is life for us, and we're ready to go the extra mile to see that we preserve a remnant for this nation and for Africa. Thank you so much for your time.